Om. Om. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayamudirayeet. Om Sadashivasamarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmad Shri Guru Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Wishing everybody blissful and happy Shankar Jayanti today. We're ever grateful to the lineage of masters, especially Shankaracharya, for having revived this beautiful wisdom and given us so many commentaries on this. Normally, Gurudev's birthday, star birthday, also falls on Shankar Jayanti, but this year it happens to be tomorrow. Right? So let's continue. So and thank you so much, Sumaji, for filling in yesterday. We did this, we repeated this. I think we start with the 7th verse, no? We finished the subjective reality and the Avataravada, empirical reality of a jiva's birth. Do you want a repeat of this or should we move on to the 7th? Yeah, I think
we can move on because yesterday Dr. Mara wanted clarification about the 3 modes of reality.
Okay.
Up to everybody.
Because we had done several times, but then we all collectively wanted it to do it one more time. Where the 3 orders of reality, is it? That was in the 7th verse or is it the one from the 6th verse?
It was in the 6th verse.
6th verse, okay. Let me just go back there then.
I think page 47 or something.
47, 46. Empirical reality we finished. Understanding. No, we did this.
Yeah, we did this.
Reality is done. We stopped at subject. Okay, we'll do from here.
Yeah.
So, the orders of reality we saw were Paramarthika Satya, which is Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. And then was Vyavaharika Satya, which is empirical reality. The constant and the cosmos is what we've seen. Now we'll see what is chaos. Subjective reality. The third order of reality is purely subjective and is called pratibhasika in Sanskrit. The dream is an example of this order of reality. Something exists because you see it. Any mistaken notion, unknown fears, and all forms of projections are also pratibhasika. When, for instance, you take a post for a man, sthano purusha darshana, or imagine that someone does not like you, it is a projection, purely subjective and therefore pratibhasika. What you see is not there, but still you see it. The very seeing gives your projection a certain reality. Everyone projects, everyone commits mistakes. Pratibhasika reality is possible because the mind is limited. So a jnani does not have pratibhasika. Only an ajnani will have pratibhasika reality, right? A jivan mukta does not have pratibhasika. There is no more projection of the mind. There is no mind for a jivan mukta. It is not omniscient. When the mind is not omniscient. Also, the mind has a particular background that creates for itself certain prejudices, fears, anxieties, disappointments, sorrows, and perceptions. This is why everyone at one time or another sees what is not really there and does not see what is there. That is why so many misunderstandings happen, right? So they see what is not really there. Why? Because it's on the background of certain prejudices. So all the samskaras and the vasanas that the mind comes with. For example, even though a person has some love for you, you may not recognize it, seeing instead some dislike, simply because you happen to notice the person frowning and you know not why. All projections, all mistakes are possible because you have a mind. You think so, and therefore it is. And since this reality that exists only for you has no empiricality, it is called pratibhasika. Wherever there is pratibhasika reality, there is error. And wherever there is error, the correction of error must be possible. That is, knowledge must be there. Suppose, for example, you are making pastry and mistake the salt for sugar. What you want is pastry, but what you get is something quite different. Both the sugar and the salt have an empirical reality because the senses are able to differentiate between them. At the same time, there is a mistake because sugar produces pastry and salt produces something else. If you use salt thinking it will make pastry, you are committing a mistake. Given this particular fact, this law, error is always possible. This is all within our experience. Atma is a self-evident experience. Consciousness is experience. All experiences are strung into this consciousness by this consciousness, just as beads are held together by a string. So this consciousness is that constant thing that is there. It's there in the cosmos as well as in the chaos. Even the subjective reality is possible only because of consciousness. Consciousness is there in all the three forms of experience: sleep, dream, and waking. These three experiences, severally and totally, are held in one experience called consciousness, which is all evident.
Dr. Brahma, this error is always possible
Uh,
because of the
limited mind,
limited mind. Mm.
limited
List.
mind because
Mm.
of that avidya.
Mm. Like, like you said, the threefold reality is, I mean, the consciousness, the pure consciousness is there in all threefold reality. Likewise, this three state, the witness consciousness is there all three state.
Correct. No. See, without that consciousness,
Mm.
Vyavaharika is not possible. Pratibhasika is also not possible without that.
Right.
Because love, pure love, if you understand cosmos is pure love,
Yeah.
as Paramarthika is pure love, and a reflection of that is there in the universe. Pratibhasika is all distorted love.
Yeah. Like we say, right, that Brahman is eternal and all, Nitya and all that stuff.
Hmm.
It fits in no matter what, it's there, always there,
It is.
in the, yeah,
That is the constant that is always there. That is
yeah,
the only thing which
constant,
is
yeah,
constant.
right. The one of the
Everything.
C's, right?
Yeah.
Constant, chaos, cosmos, chaos, and constant. Satyam, Satya, and
Jnanam Anantam.
Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam. Brahma.
So this Pratibhasika is something new that we have not come across till now. Till now, we learned only about Satya and Mithya and Tuchya,
Nitya, yeah.
right? But this
Vyaharika,
one
right? Mm.
is Pratibhasika.
That's a subjective reality.
Mm. It is evident that we create our own subjective realities, and it is also evident that we are dealing with a world which conforms to an order, which behaves in an orderly way. Thus, we have a cosmos which is empirical, a chaos which is subjective, and that which is constant, Satchit Ananda Atma. This Satchit Ananda Atma seems to exist in the form of a threefold reality. For lack of a better term, we use this term, that is, the threefold reality. In fact, there is only one reality, Satya Jnana Ananta Brahma. So actually, there is only one. It as
Yeah.
though appears. Vyavaharika is an as though appearance. And then in that Vyavaharika, the Pratibhasika is yet another layer, which is
Projection.
subjective. It's a
Yeah.
projection of individual jivas.
Individual, right. Individual jiva.
The relationship among the three orders of reality. Between
Mm.
the empirical reality and the subjective reality, there is a difference. The entire creation, empirical reality, is called Ishvara Srishti, the Lord's creation. And the projection of one's own mind is called Jiva Srishti, the individual subjective creation. At all times, we are confronting these two orders of reality, the empirical and the subjective, on the basis of the one absolute reality, Satya Jnana Ananta Brahma. See, at all times, we are confronting these two orders of reality, the empirical and the subjective, on the basis of the one absolute reality. With this understanding of the orders of reality, let us return to the verse. So here, it is on the substratum of the absolute reality, Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. We are encountering the empirical as well as pratibhasika. The more and more the pratibhasika is closer to the empirical reality, that is, we see what is and not what our projections are, then you are then you're bringing it down to just two orders of reality.
Meaning like
the projections are reduced.
You
are seeing things as they are.
Empirical
and as it is.
Paramarthika.
Right.
Okay.
And then when that mind is like that settled, it does not have its own different projections, then there's knowledge is, when you pursue this knowledge, then this knowledge has that ability to dawn. Basically, like we discussed last time, it is like bringing your mind to the present. Every time the mind is caught up in the past or the future, you are caught up in the pratibhasika. Because the past, about all the regrets of the past, is your projection. Worries of the future are your projections. Fears, worries, anxiety. It doesn't have a reality of its own. It is only a creation of your mind. Because of some previous vasana or some experience you've had, you tend to project. We tend to project. It's a mind projection, past and future. Whereas the more and more we are rooted in the present moment, we at least free ourselves from this pratibhasika. With this understanding of the orders of reality, let us return to the verse. Krishna says, I am born wielding the Maya, the Prakriti, in my hands. In this way, I assume a body. Because the Lord can create the whole world and also assume a body, there is no problem in seeing that Krishna's birth is referred to here as an incarnation of Ishvara based on the concept of Avataravada. But the next question would be, to which order of reality does the physical body that the Lord assumes belong? When
More
Krishna
like a
points...
subjective reality, right?
Yeah.
When you are the body, when we're talking
Right.
about, yeah.
When Krishna points out that he is unborn, never born, he is pointing out the absolute reality, Paramarthika Satya. In fact, from the standpoint of absolute reality, no one is born. Thus, from this standpoint, Krishna is not born, and Mr. Krishna, who is standing before Arjuna, cannot be that Paramarthika Satya. It must be kept in mind here that we are not talking about Krishna who is Paramatma, but we are talking about Mr. Krishna who was born in prison, who had a body, who wore a yellow piece of cloth, who played a flute, and who, seated in Arjuna's chariot, was holding the reins of the horses in his hands. Is this Krishna who was teaching Arjuna Paramarthika? No, he is not, because his body is not Paramarthika. Surely then, we can say that Krishna's body is empirically real, Vyavaharika. So it is ruled out that it is Paramarthika. Because why? There is no birth.
Mm.
And this body has a birth. Mr. Krishna had a birth. He was born in prison. So is it then
Right.
Vyavaharika?
Yeah.
But
Like we are
it,
seeing it, so it's like
yeah, can it be Vyavaharika? So now how it is not Vyavaharika is also being ruled out. But if it were to be taken as empirically real, would Krishna not have been born of his own karma? And therefore, would he not also be a samsari like Arjuna? Because the whole empirical reality, Jiva is born because of karma. So, does that mean Krishna also has karma? And if he were born of his own karma, Punya and Papa would be there for him, along with Dharma and Adharma, doership and enjoyership. If he were bound by karma, where would be the possibility of his wielding the Maya? In order for his birth to be considered empirical, Krishna had to have been under the spell of karma, meaning that without his volition, his birth would have been determined by the very laws. Only then can his birth be considered to be empirical like that of Arjuna.
so that's make a big sense, right? Like
Yeah,
that it's not empirical. It's not Vyavaharika
it is
because
not
of
empirical.
yeah, based on the not just because you're seeing the body. Vyavaharika, it has to be based on karma. You take the birth and all that punya papa uh, and dharma. So he's not related to any of that. So all these things,
Your
right?
voice is not very clear. Maybe there is some.
Sorry. Um, no, the thing is here it all the opposite uh, pairs of opposites, right? Everything is punya, papa, dharma, and doership, enjoyership. Everything bound to happen as a result of karma.
Yeah,
But that is not related to his Krishna's birth. So he's not Vivaharika reality. I mean, his body is not Vivaharika reality. So that's why how the relationship of these three realities, right? This is what the heading was about. So, uh, how he's not Paramarthika because uh, he's in front of Arjuna. That
yeah.
his body is not Paramarthika,
The body is not Paramarthika.
right? So only your basic. He doesn't have the mind. First of all, yeah, Lord is not. He is not limited because of that reason. Become Paramarthika. But in the body, when you say how the body is related, which reality, then that was we have to see. The more like you mentioned before, also it could be subjective how we see it.
It is by exclusion, by negating. It comes
Mm.
down to pratibhasika. It has to fit into some order of reality. No? But
Yeah,
then
the
that is why
body.
the avatara concept is brought in.
Mm.
That is why Krishna says, when Arjuna questions, how come you said this was given by you to Vivaswan? How come you are there with me right now? How come you were born then? How could you have given it to him? Then Krishna tells him, both of us have had lot of births. It's that I remember the birth. You do not. He remembers why? Because he is the wielder of Maya. Whereas Arjuna is influenced by Maya. He's under the spell of Maya. The empirical reality of a jiva's birth. Arjuna, being a jiva, was born of karma. Even though he was born a prince, he had to go to the forest for 12 years and then live incognito for 1 year, all of which could be attributed to his past karma. The destiny of Arjuna's eldest brother, Dharmaputra, was also controlled by his own punya and papa. Because of his papa, he lost the kingdom. Otherwise, the die would have rolled out differently, or he would not have thrown them at all. Some prarabdha karma was there for him. The Shastra itself talks about this kind of karma. Arjuna was a person, a jiva, born of karma, and therefore his birth, janma, was empirically real. He had a parentage and a physical body, mind, and senses, all of which have an empirical reality, as we have seen. Krishna, on the other hand, said that as Ishvara, keeping the Maya under his control, he is born. We will see later why he was born. The reality of Krishna's birth. The body of anyone who is born is available for our perception. But what is available for our perception is not always totally true. The blue sky for example, or a magician's tricks. Therefore, perception itself cannot establish the empirical reality of Krishna's birth. If, as Ishvara, Krishna is born, keeping the Maya under his control, his birth is definitely not subject to any punya or papa. So I'll repeat this again. The reality of Krishna's birth, the body of anyone who is born is available for our perception. But what is available for our perception is not always totally true. The blue sky, for example, or a magician's tricks. Therefore, perception itself cannot establish the empirical reality of Krishna's birth. If, as Ishvara, Krishna is born, keeping the Maya under his control, his birth is definitely not subject to any punya or papa. Therefore, being not bound by karma, it has no empirical status. Birth itself, being what it is, cannot be paramarthika either. There's a repetition of what was discussed last two paras. Nor can Krishna's birth be totally non-existent, atyanta asat, since he was not a Vandhya Putra, the son of a barren woman. He was born of Devaki and Vasudeva. Thus, it was not a totally non-existent Krishna who was talking to Arjuna. Then how are we to explain Krishna's birth in terms of reality? With reference to his birth, Krishna is pratibhasika. You see him and therefore he is. His birth is not due to karma. It is only apparent. Pratibhasika means that there was a Krishna whom everyone saw, but his birth and his body were purely Maya. Like everything else, they were born of Maya, but without the force of the law of karma. This kind of birth means that Ishvara is not condemned to the state of jivatva. He merely assumes a particular body due to a certain necessity alone.
So the Partibhasika is related to Maya, which is also Maya. Vyavaharika reality and Pratibhasika, both of them under Maya, right?
Yeah.
But the only thing differentiate here is that not without the force of law of karma.
Right.
Mm.
It seems like it's a little difficult, this concept to understand. But let's just park it. If we want to discuss a bit about this, you want to share your thoughts on this? So,
Jai Gurudev, then the teaching of Bhagwan also is Pratibhasika. What
yeah,
about the Vedas? It's all Mithya and Pratibhasika, right?
Shastra has an empirical reality. It is pratibhasika in the sense how we understand it, that much we will get. So that way, there is a pratibhasika element to this, isn't it? So that Shastra Kripa is what is, if we are able to understand crystal clear what the Shastra wants to convey. Shastra, I think Veda, all of that has comes under the empirical reality, Vyavaharika Satya. But there is a pratibhasika to how we interpret the Veda, how we understand the Veda. So there is that pratibhasika element. Same with Krishna. See, if for a person who, for all the Dvaitins, for example, they see Krishna as the Lord, and they see the Lord is different from them. And that is the truth. For them, that is it, that there's no more non duality that exists. Whereas for the Advaitins, there is no duality. You are Krishna. You're nothing but Krishna. There is only Krishna. There is only one. So that is the pratibhasika element there that comes in. So this is actually an interplay of all the three realities. If you see, at any given instance, all three are playing a part. Because of Paramarthika Satya, you have Vyavaharika Satya. In deep sleep, we do not have Pratibhasika. It is only the Vyavaharika Satya is there. That is why you're in such a bliss. But the moment your mind wakes up, this limited mind wakes up from that deep sleep, all the whole gamut of fears and prejudices and projections start up. And then you'll start seeing, you'll start perceiving the world with this filter of Pratibhasika. And with the filter of your prejudices, likes, dislikes. That is what is Pratibhasika. So at any given instance, all three are, they have their role. It is just like how Sattva, Rajas, Tamo gunas are. At any given point, they are all three there, but one is predominantly expressed. When Sattva is predominant, Rajas and Tamas are subdued. Similarly here, Paramarthika, for a Jivan Mukta, it is only the Paramarthika that is expressed completely, fully. So the empirical reality, there's no Pratibhasika, there's no Vyavahari. He sees reality as it is. For the rest of us who are sadhaks, we have a bit of concept. We have some jnana about what Atma is and what Anatma is. But we are still reeling in our Pratibhasika. Until and unless this jnana becomes that aparokshanubhuti, that it becomes the knowledge dawns, that realization happens. Till such time, we are still only in the conceptual knowledge. Whereas Krishna is, his birth is unique in the sense, because there is a body that we see, it is not paramarthika. The body is as though. So is it empirical reality? Is it vyavaharika? For it to be vyavaharika, by definition, it has to be born of karma, punya and papa. But is Krishna subject to punya, papa, and is he born of karma? The answer is no. Because he himself says, I am out of Maya, out of my having Maya under my control, which means he is not under the influence of karma. So it is not vyavaharika also. So then what is how do we, which reality do we slot Krishna's body in, or his birth in? It has nothing, it has to be pratibhasika. So by negation, it has come down to pratibhasika. It's a projection. It is as though the body is. So, but his birth and his body were purely Maya. Like everything else, they were born of Maya, but without the force of the law of karma. This kind of birth means that Ishvara is not condemned to a state of jivatva. He merely assumes a particular body due to a certain necessity alone. And what is that necessity? We'll see, right? So why does Ishvara assume a physical body is the next question. And what is it that makes it necessary for the Lord to assume a physical body? In the Puranas, it is said that before every incarnation, there is a collective petition to the Lord in the form of prayers on the part of all the good people and even the Devas. Oh Lord, please do something. Please come and remedy this situation. It is time. Time's up, in fact. Why haven't you come? The tyranny of these people is too much for us to bear, etc. These very prayers themselves become the material cause, the upadana karana for the Lord to introduce himself in a particular form, meaning that he assumes a body. The prayers of the jivas become the punya because of which a particular body is born for a given purpose. This incarnation of the Lord is what is meant by avatara. The purpose of the avatara's coming may be just to do one job, like Narasimha Avatara or Vamana Avatara, or to do many, as was the case with Rama and Krishna. In addition to the many jobs they came to do, Rama and Krishna also served as examples with reference to how people should live their lives. Rama exemplified how one can live a life of dharma in the face of all adversity, and Krishna was an embodiment of joy and wisdom. It should be clearly understood that the concept of avatara is not required at all in order to worship Krishna as the Lord. A picture of Krishna as Ishvara is all that is needed for invoking the Lord. In fact, we can invoke the Lord in anything, even a rock. Invoking the Lord in a particular form and the concept of avatara are entirely different. We discuss it here only because the verse is referring to Krishna as avatara. Krishna himself says, by my own powers of Maya, I as though assume a body. See, why you can, in order to invoke the Lord, you can invoke the Lord in anything. In fact, the whole of creation is the Lord's creation. So you see that yatah pravrittir bhutanam ena sarvamidam tatam. So that one all pervading that exists in and through creation, that is what the Lord is, right? So in order to worship the Lord, you do not need Krishna in a form. You can worship the Lord in anything and everything in creation. But the concept of avatara is what is um, is like a subset of this, in that it is referring, because this verse refers to Krishna as avatara. Krishna himself says, by my own powers of Maya, I as though assume a body. Shankara says in his commentary to this verse, while explaining how Ishvara assumes a body, Dehavan iva, Jatah iva, as though with a body, as though born. The word iva, as though, in Shankara's commentary indicates that there was no empiricality here, because Krishna's birth was not out of punya and papa. If there were punya and papa for Ishvara, then he would not be Ishvara at all. Therefore, when Ishvara assumes a body, he is only as though born. He has a body, but his body has no empiricality because it is not born out of punya and papa. If there were punya and papa for Ishvara, we would have the problem of an Ishvara with limitations, with reference to the Antahkarana, which is not acceptable. And as we have seen, that is not possible because Ishvara is all knowledge. He's pure knowledge, and it's that knowledge principle. That is why even Bhanudidi, she mentions Gurudev is not just the physical body. We are limiting him to the physical body, but he's beyond that. This body is only as though. It is that knowledge principle. See, if Krishna had a limited mind, like the rest of us, like Arjuna had, he would not be giving out all that beautiful knowledge in the second chapter. That knowledge was speaking, right? It was that knowledge principle was expressing itself there. So he is knowledge, all knowledge, and that body is as though. And every other enlightened master, Jivan Mukta, is nothing but that knowledge principle. So their bodies are only as though, but then they have an empirical reality, because a Jivan Mukta, he's not born Jivan Mukta. He becomes a Jivan Mukta, or he attains Jivan Mukti while in the body. Therefore, that prarabdha karma will continue. Although he's out of the sanchita and his agami doesn't affect him, prarabdha has to continue. That is the only difference between a Jivan Mukta and an avatara. See, avatara is born without any, the body comes into existence as though, and it is not out of karma. So there is no prarabdha karma for this. for an avatara. He's totally, he has karma under his Maya is under his control. So he's not affected by any karma. So without punya and papa, I am born, which is the very concept of avatara. In the next verse, Krishna explains why. As Ishvara, he assumes a body. Shall we go now to the verse 7? I know Sumaji did read this also yesterday. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanirбhavati bharata abhyuttanamadharmasya tadatmanam srijamyaham. Bharata, O descendant of the Bharatas, Arjuna, yada yada, whenever, he indeed, dharmasya, of right living, glanihi, decline, adharmasya, of wrong living, apyutthanam, rise, everywhere, bhavati is tada, then, aham, I, atmanam, myself, srijami, bring into being, assume a physical body. So, yada yada bharata, yada yada hi dharmasya glanihi adharmasya abhyutthanam bhavati tada aham atmanam srijami. Abhyutthanam is rise everywhere. O Arjuna, whenever there is a decline in right living and an increase in wrong living everywhere, I bring myself into being, assume a physical body. We saw in the previous verse that Krishna's birth represented the concept of avatara. Even though he is unborn and therefore not subject to death, there being no birth or death for Atma, and even though he is Ishvara, the Lord of the entire creation, still, by the powers of his Maya alone, Krishna was as though born. Without being subject to his own dharma and adharma, punya and papa, he was as though born in this particular form. The creation is Ishvara's form, and in that creation, jivas are born. From the standpoint of consciousness, Chaitanya, there is only one, Paramatma. Thus, consciousness being one, each jiva is Paramatma, Brahman. From the standpoint of someone who is looking at the world, however, the one becomes the many, and there is difference between the jiva and Ishvara, the Lord. So beautiful, right? So from the standpoint of Chaitanya, there is only one. But from the standpoint of the jiva, that is the one who's looking at the world, the one becomes the many. The one consciousness, it assumes different things, different beings. That distinction happens. The one becomes the many, and there is difference between the jiva and Ishvara, the Lord. The jiva is a person who looks upon himself or herself as the physical body, mind, and senses. Karya Karana Sanghata. Karya Karana Sanghata. Due to ignorance, avidya. And because of this ignorance, the jiva continues to be born as a jiva. Out of ignorance, the person continues to perform actions which produce punya and papa that result in yet another birth. This, of course, is from a particular point of view. As a jiva, you look at the world and at yourself, seeing differences where there is none. This is the standpoint from which all these discussions and arguments take place, the standpoint of vyavahara, empirical reality, not paramarthika, absolute reality. So I'll repeat this paragraph. The jiva is a person who looks upon himself or herself as a physical body, mind and senses, karya karana sanghata, due to ignorance, avidya. And because of this ignorance, the jiva continues to be born as a jiva. Out of ignorance, the person continues to perform actions which produce punya and papa that result in yet another birth. This, of course, is from a particular point of view. As a jiva, you look at the world and at yourself, seeing differences where there is none. Because from the standpoint of Atma, there is no difference, right? But from the standpoint of the jiva with the limited mind and senses, there are differences. This is the standpoint from which all these discussions and arguments take place. The standpoint of vyavahara, empirical reality, not paramarthika, absolute reality. We say that Jiva is one who is born because of his own karma, whereas an avatara is one who is not born because of karma. Otherwise, the avatara would be a karta, a doer, and being a doer would have avidya. If this were the case, the avatara would be a jiva, not Ishvara. This then is the difference between a jiva's birth and Ishvara's birth. The whole creation is Ishvara, and when Ishvara assumes a particular form for a given purpose at a given time, we call that form an avatara. The concept of avatara is not mentioned in the Veda, although devas or gods are referred to. Rama and Krishna, for instance, are presented as avatars in the Puranas. But for our purpose here, it does not matter whether Vyasa put the wisdom into Krishna's mouth when he wrote the Mahabharata, or if a historical Krishna actually did the talking. Isn't it? So, the concept of avatara is there they're presented in the Puranas. Concept of avatara is not mentioned in the Veda, although devas or gods are referred to. So whether Vyasa, for our purposes, all these arguments are coming from the empirical standpoint. So whether Vyasa put the wisdom himself or he put it through this frame called Krishna does not matter. If we look upon Mahabharata as historical, as it generally is the case, then Krishna himself talked. The word itihasa, meaning iti ha asa, this is how it was, gives the epic a certain historicity. However, it is also recognized that many of the stories found in the Mahabharata have been spun around actual historical events. The Mahabharata is also considered to be poetry, just as the Ramayana is both historical and poetic. This means that the poet has the poetic license to create the rasas, the aesthetic values, and all kinds of situations at will. Thus, In Ramayana, we find Ravana with 10 heads and Hanuman who talks even though he was in the form of a monkey, along with many other situations not generally accepted as having happened or even imagined. Even so, the Ramayana, like the Mahabharata, is a story considered to have been based upon certain historical facts. I think we'll stop here today. And Avatara is like an actor, is what we'll see tomorrow, right? Yeah. So we will have to let this this concept of Paramarthika, Vyavaharika, Pratibhasika, Avataravada, let it sink in. Today, let me see. Is yeah, Jai Gurudev. Bila, if you're able to, can I request you to sing that beautiful song on Gurudev? This um, Gurudeva Namo. If you're able to sing
Jai
that,
Gurudev.
today we'll wind up with that.
Which one, Brahmaraji? Gurudeva Tava
Deva
Mahaniya
Tava.
Krupa?
Yes, please.
Yeah, just give me 2 minutes. I will.
No worries, no worries.
Jai Gurudev. गुरुदेव तव महनीय कृपा गुरुदेव तव महनीय कृपा मेरे जीवन का अवलंबन है बस एक यही मेरा बल है अज्ञान भरे संशय से भरे अज्ञान भरे संशय से भरे विपरीत विचारों से भी भरे मन के अंधकार को दूर करे मन के अंधकार को दूर करे वचनामृत से तव बोध कृपा गुरुदेव तव महनीय कृपा पल पल पग पग जीवन पथ पर पल पल पग पग जीवन पथ पर गुरु साथ मेरे रक्षक बन कर बिसरूं न कभी यह प्रेममयी आनंदमयी भवदीय कृपा बिसरू न कभी तव प्रेममयी आनंदमयी भवदीय कृपा गुरुदेव तव महनीय कृपा गुरुदेव तव महनीय कृपा मेरे जीवन का अवलंबन है बस एक यही मेरा बल है गुरुदेव तव महनीय कृपा गुरुदेव तव भवदीय कृपा जय गुरुदेव
So beautiful, Belaji. So much of devotion. Wow.
Beautiful, yeah.
Jai Gurudev.
Balaji, I have a request for you. Can you record it? I'm sure you did this before.
Right.
Can you put it in the group,
Please,
you know?
Please
Yeah,
do that,
would
Leela.
be- Thank you.
Right.
Okay. Jai
And
Gurudev.
one more request, please send the wordings, written wordings to.
Done.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Thank
That
you
I'll
so
send right away. Yeah.
Yeah, Jai Gurudev.
ॐ लोका समस्ता सुखिनो भवन्तु ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ तत्सत् श्रीकृष्णार्पणमस्तु जय गुरुदेव
Thank you, Lakshmi.